I just heard on the news that there are people who literally cannot afford to leave because they can't afford gas. I'm like, I think that's crazy. And it makes sense. You need a week, 2 weeks of rations plus ability to stay at a motel. What if you don't have a family, nearby? What are you going to do? Some of these people are old. They're on Social Security. Like, they're just going to let them sit there and rot? Like, and shelter? Okay, I mean, they fill up very, very quickly. What if you lose your house? You got to file an insurance claim. I mean, that's if you're lucky enough to buy a house. What if the place you rent just died? I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, what do you do in the meantime? What do you do in the meantime?
Exactly right. And it's like, there's all these questions, and everybody says, oh, we're going to help. And like, look, I hope so. Usually within a week or two, though, the country moves on. Let's be honest. Hurricane really going to be at the top of the news?
No.
No, it's not. Like, let's just be real. And I don't want to sound callous. I'm saying, like, that is why the system is broken, because it shouldn't have to be at the whims of whatever the news cycle should be. It's like these things should be intrinsic to how the economy works.
Well, I think there's like so many things that go into, because I agree with you. I don't think we'll be talking about Ian in a week.
Yeah.
And then, you say this a lot, and this actually resonates with me. Americans are like good people. We're well-meaning people. I truly believe that too. But we have a system in place, like text this number right now to donate $10 to help victims of Hurricane Ian. And you do that and you feel like you've done something. So you kind of like let that guilt go. But the reality is these people aren't going to have houses for months. Who knows if another hurricane's going to come? Right. And what do they do in the meantime? The insurance isn't going to Venmo them their insurance money. There's going to be an entire process there. They're going to have to rebuild or rebuy their house or rebuy a new house. And how does that not get covered? It's like, how does it not get covered that there's like homeless people all over Chicago? I talk about this every chance I get because like I say hi to them. I meet them. There's a veteran outside my Target that I've seen for 2 years who every time I see him, like I say hi, I talk to him, I'll buy him something sometimes. And his story it's just really sad. And I'm not going to tell it for him, but like, how do we just walk through our lives and see that our country's like collapsing, whether it be from Hurricane Ian, people losing their jobs, not affording gas, not affording food, and just go about our lives? I don't understand that.
Well, that's very different. I mean, I think the real issue is that, and I do believe to my core Americans are good people. I think most Americans get the shirt off your back if you were in a tough spot. The issue is that when problems become very big, individual agency no longer really plays a role. Right. So, for example, like you buying that guy, which is very admirable, but like, what are you going to do? You're going to do it for every single person? And in Chicago, I mean, I don't know if you've been to LA or San Francisco lately, it's horrific. I mean, I cannot describe the human tragedy of what Skid Row is like. And the truth is that everybody just ignores it. And it's like, I'm serious. Like I have been to some of the like third world countries all over the world. I've been to slums in India. I've seen people shit in streets. I have been to Cambodia. I have seen people with their legs blown off from landmines. And I'm telling you, one of the most horrific things I have ever seen is Skid Row, downtown Los Angeles. It is like and I'm describing it this way. I'm not denigrating them. It is an open air drug market. There are, it's a tragedy, and I mean that. Like one of my Uber drivers who drove me through was telling me
I got driven through when I was there too.
He said 2 years ago, he goes, I was a meth addict. I was out there on the street. He said girls out there getting raped every single day for fentanyl. And this is why, and look, I want to be stark because this is the reality of what we allow to happen. Mm-hmm. But here's why. Like, why does this happen? And it's because of ideology, of money, and of a deep like apathy to, if we just let it happen in Skid Row, then whatever, it's not my issue. And I think that the truth is that everybody needs to give a little bit. So like I have really, really, really come around on how we should deal with this. Like at a certain point, I'm just like, look, penalization is just not going to work here. At the same time, like allowing people to camp out in the streets, like I understand why some people might think that is okay. But the truth is that, as I just said, these people are addicts and they need treatment and they need help. Mm-hmm. And allowing them to be preyed on by predatory drug dealers and by rapists and other sexual criminals is actually deeply wrong. And as a society, like we owe them protection. Now, that doesn't mean that we should throw them in jail. What we need means is that we need to make sure that they have access to actual treatment. And one of the things that everybody kind of covers up, and this is just, look, we have to be real honest here, which is that in a lot of these encampments, these people are not quote unquote homeless because they can't afford a house. That is true, but that's not the sole reason. They are straight up drug addicts. And I mean, strung out on fentanyl, and frankly, a lot of them are okay with it. And I think that, look, I encourage people to go and look at interviews with these actual folks, and like you said, actually talk to them, because like most of them are pretty honest. A lot of them who've been interviewed, Skid Row, and in San Francisco and others, are like very open. Many of them also have mental illness. Like, allowing that to happen and be a threat like to themselves, like, forget about us. Like, let's actually care about like their actual well-being. It's not in their best interest. Like, they get preyed upon. You know, I'm friends with somebody who works in the ER, and man, they get people who walk in there with open drug abscesses, like necrotic tissue, looking out of their legs, and they'll be like, "We need you to stay for amputation or whatever," and they're like, "No," they're like, "I don't care," and they'll be out of there, and the doctors are like, "That person's literally gonna be dead in like 2 weeks," and it's like, that is the reality of like what we're allowing, you know, and I just think people need to internalize like what the reality of this stuff. Yeah.
Well, and I always say too, like, what those folks, they may be okay with it now, but when they were growing up, they didn't want to be homeless. They didn't want to have mental illness. They didn't want to be drug addicts. So what happened in society that broke from our perspective of sort of having a culture of taking care of one another because we're all human beings? Like, what broke there that put them in this position where like, this guy doesn't care that his leg needs to be amputated, he's going to die in 2 weeks?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, we could go all the way back to the opioid crisis and the overprescription of that definitely is like the spark that lit the fire. But I actually think that focusing on that almost, and by the way, I think those people are criminals, and I think every single one of them should go to jail, whoever played a role in that. Part of the issue is we're way past that. We are not this is the thing. Heroin is no longer our problem. It was our problem in 2015. Fentanyl is our problem right now, which is that we have a substance which is even more addictive and more potent and very, small, that is so, I mean, if you think heroin was bad, like, this is what is dropping people left and right. The number one cause of death in this country for 18 to 49-year-olds is literally opioid abuse or overdose, fentanyl overdose specifically.